Every good person wants to take care of their family, their friends, neighbours, and people around them.
But what happens if you forget to take care of yourself?
Respite doesn't have to be boring. It can be really fun.
At the PAN Association, we don't just do respite, but we create lifelong friendships, where friends become family.
With affordable group counselling and outings, just to take the pressure off a bit.
Good evening. This is our very first podcast for 2025. Welcome to Cat Space. I'm Kat. With me is the gorgeous Buckets and my best mate Leon. Good evening, gentlemen.
How ironic it is we're the Blues brothers and sisters because we're all wearing blue in some capacity.
Yes. So, welcome to our new subscribers, current subscribers and viewers. This is the very first topic and podcast of the year. The topic is election campaign year. And I'll throw it to the boys. Let's start. Leon.
Yep.
What should the main focal points of each campaign put on the table to win the election?
Well, I think to be honest, it's got to be the cost of living, and it's also got to be the cost of electricity because both of them have got the cost of living has gone through the roof, and the cost of electricity and power and stuff like that has also gone through the roof as well. So, you'd think that would be the first thing that you'd be worried about, but it doesn't seem like it as we've been on the quote unquote campaign trail, this fake campaign trail, which pretty much started earlier on the week, which is leading me to believe that election could be called sooner rather than later. I think they're sweating on the RBA decision in February. If they get a good result and the interest rates come down, then pull the trigger for it. If not, then you're just gonna have to wait.
There, answer. Buckets, same question, your answer. Please, what should the main focal points of each campaign put on the table to win the federal election this year?
Cost of living, but also the rental crisis. But on top of that, I think it's also jobs. And I think a lot of what I actually rang up my local member today, actually, Andrew Charlton, about not only programs to actually get into jobs, okay, but actually having jobs at the end of it. And I think a lot of organizations have been doing is they've been taking advantage of the NDIS or NDIA as it's other name, where they've gone, okay, we're going to create like an educational program to get people into jobs, knowing full well that there's no jobs at the end of the road. They're just taking full advantage of people who have a disability. And I thought that was basically uncalled for, un-Australian, to just make people do these courses just so employment agencies can get paid when there really is no work, or they're not even trying to get these people work. So I think employment should be number one, on top of cost of living crisis and rental crisis on top of that.
It's interesting you say about the unemployment at the moment, because I believe the unemployment rate I think is at 3.0% or 2.8 or something like that. The strange thing is, and I think I've gone through this with you guys before, but this wasn't on the podcast. This was me doing my own research. When the Albanese government came into power, the unemployment rate, I believe it was at 2.8 or 3.0 or whatever it was. And as of November, it was at 2.8 or 3.0, whatever it was. So it has not changed in the years that the Anthony Albanese government, the ALP, have been in power, which is kind of a little strange because Andrew, what's his name, Chalmers or whatever his name is,
Andrew
on
Chalmers.
Twitter is patting himself on the bum, and he's also patting the Labor Party on the bum, just bragging about how we've got unemployment rates low. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. And I call him out on it. He's ignoring it, obviously, and he's still posting the same crap over and over again.
Well, what I'm annoyed at is the fact that if anyone's got any sort of work during this time, it hasn't actually been predominantly full-time or part-time work. It's been casual positions. And the biggest problem with casual positions is there's no job security. And that's crap. You should job security should be a really important part. So why is it that pretty much every company has been going, no, we're not going to have full-time jobs anymore. We're not going to have part-time jobs anymore. It's just all casual. What? Why? It's so sad that you're doing that to people during a cost of living crisis.
Exactly. And I think you both said everything I wanted to say, but I also, as I said, what I'm looking for in this federal election is the cost of living crisis, as well as not just the rental cap and the rental freeze, but to be able to hold the interest rates for the houses, the prices of houses to rent needs to start coming down, because there's no way on God's green earth that anyone can move at the stage or in a later stage, because it's getting to a point where we're all destined to either live in motels or in a tent. And the other thing that they need to put a focal points on it is how much people on Centrelink are getting, which is atrociously, slim to bupkis or not enough. Also, there's the price gouging of Woolworths and Coles that are still price gouging.
Isn't that
And
called a duopoly or something?
yeah, they're
Isn't that what
still
they called it?
yeah, duopoly. They're still making the people believe that there is a special when there isn't. And they put the same price and saying, oh, it's on special for 278 when it's really the price tag is 278. So you're not really, nothing is going down, everything's going up. And I think they've been talking a while about, oh, we need to take it to the ACCC. The ACCC said we're going to fine them. Well, get a wriggle on, because these CEOs aren't doing anything. Because what people don't see behind, what we don't see behind the behind the scenes is that if they get a, how can I say without getting in trouble, or like if they get some, if they shake someone's hand, they get something out of it, then we the public don't, because we're still being told this is how much something is.
You
So
mentioned Woolworths, by the way. You mentioned Woolworths. There was the industrial action with Woolworths several months, might have been a few months ago or something along those lines, where the workers weren't stacking, the trucks and sending them out, and there was that food, and there was that shortage of food at, Woolworths all across the country. So yeah, but as far as like Coles or whatever, they were fine, but just Woolworths, they were being stuck up and just not coming to the table regarding renegotiations, and
Um,
that's what caused industrial action when it come to Woolies.
can I just point something out?
mm.
So,
Sorry to interrupt, by the way, Kat.
But
in Australia, we have Coles, Woolworths, Audi. Um, we used to have BioWay, we used to have Franklin's, but those things kind of fizzled out. We have IGA as well, independent grocers as well. But the three big ones, right, are Audi, Coles, Woolworths, right? Now, if in America, right, if you get caught for price gouging, they literally shut down the um, entire shopping center for that area, okay, and you are forced to go into liquidation. So they're really, really strict when it comes to price gouging. And they get a couple of warnings and stuff like that. But if they repetitively do it, they will liquidate them, right? The biggest problem with Australia is that if someone is caught for price gouging, they get a fine, but nothing really happens to them. Okay, so they just pay the fine like it's a tax. Okay, and then they just continue to price gouge. So I think we should really take the American system, which is if you're caught price gouging like 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and you keep doing it, shut down that shopping center force it into liquidation and sell it to another organization, like say Walmart or something like that. That way you're forced to have competition. And if you have competition, it means that the prices will always be competitive. But if you've got a situation where it's like the both shopping centers have agreed to a single price because there's no other choice because they're the only ones in the area, then you're not really helping Australians at all.
We had something similar to that. Something, it was more like a three strike system, but that was during the COVID lockdowns when the pubs would reopen. However, if they didn't adhere to certain regulations, they would be forcibly shut down for what, 24 hours a week and then permanently shut down. I can't remember this. I can't remember the three strike system, how it was, but maybe the government should be looking into that kind of strike system.
Next question. Here we go, gentlemen. Do both Peter Dutton and Anthony Albanese have what it takes to win this election, Leon?
If I've got to be honest with you, I don't. Neither of these guys are popular at the moment. The problem is you need to have the popular vote, and if you don't have the popular vote with the people, then you're really not going to win the election, so to speak. Both of these guys are not popular, despite the fact that the LNP may be leading in the polls and stuff like that. You've got to have a popular leader, and right now neither of them are. But also want to just add to the previous thing before you hand things over to Phil, and I did say about the unemployment rate. So during the initial lockdown in 2020, the unemployment rate rose from 5.2% to 7.5% between March and July 2020. By the time the ALP took over, the unemployment rate was 3.9%, and in November 2024, the unemployment rate was 3.9%. That is from tradingeconomics.com. That's where I sourced it.
The reason why I say that is because of the situation that we're all in and the messes that have been made to the point there's so much mess that Anthony Albanese, his feet are stuck in the mud. And I think him calling this early election before May, this is just my opinion. Please don't hate me for it. Don't come at me for it. But I believe Anthony Albanese is scared knowing his time as PM is up. And he has no other way than to start campaigning now by telling people why he deserves to be re-elected. I mean, this isn't just a Boris Johnson game or a Rishi Sunak thing or a Sir Keir Starmer thing. This is where people have seen through the manipulation, the stories, the lies, and the headaches. This is just my opinion. Buckets. Same question, your answer.
Okay, you know what? I think the reason why Albanese is going to lose is exactly the same reason why Kamala Harris lost. And that's because they both bought into woke politics as opposed to what really matters. So Albanese tried to set up basically the voice to Parliament, which was supposed to appeal to Indigenous Australians, but it didn't really appeal to Indigenous Australians. It really divided us as a people. I mean, it was, for all intensive purposes, it was supposed to unite us, but it didn't unite us. It divided us.
You would have thought that would have been a slam dunk in the Northern Territory. It didn't. It backfired spectacularly. Yeah, the Indigenous voice to Parliament, they voted no.
But my point is, right, Kamala Harris did exactly the same thing, and she lost. Okay? So, and also Hillary Clinton did exactly the same thing, and she lost. Okay? So I think if we can really learn from history, it's don't worry about woke politics until you've actually dealt with the real things that actually do matter to people's lives, like how am I going to feed my family? Am I going to be employed? How am I going to survive? Are taxes going to be higher or are they going to be lower? What services can you provide for me? these are the things that actually matter, and then worry about the woke politics later. But because they chose woke politics first and then the stuff that matters later, okay, unfortunately, that's why Albanese is going to lose. And look, investing in a football stadium overseas does not help Australians.
No.
And
It
now
might make
and
the
now
game more
reinvesting
interesting.
and now reinvesting in the national broadband network, which was announced today, even though we've already got the national broadband network, it's not going to do any good if Elon Musk's bloody internet is faster than the NBN.
Well, I mean, like most countries are actually faster than Australia
Mm,
for like $1. So
yeah.
like we pay exorbitant amounts of money for the internet for shit internet.
Mm.
It's actually most Eastern European countries have faster internet than we do for next to nothing. Um, it really is absolutely amazing. They actually can't believe how much we actually do pay. But like I kind of feel it's like too little too late, if you know what I mean, for Albanese. And he's had all this time to fix these problems.
Yeah, yeah.
And people have been screaming at him saying, "Hey, we have these problems. Help us, help us, help us, help us." And it's like he's like this, you know. I'm the Prime Minister of Australia. You listen to me, not the other way around. So that's why I think Albanese is going to lose. Dutton, hell yes, he's boring. But you know what? Okay, at least he's logical.
Mm.
Okay, and logic will always win, despite his boringness. Logic will always win over lunacy.
This is what I think of Mr. Dutton. I never liked him from the beginning, but he's a man of the law. He was a police officer in Queensland at a younger age. So he's actually got to follow the rule of the law,
Like they all do.
Which they all should. But as Buckets is saying, everything he's been saying has been logical over this lunacy. When England went into their general election, Rishi Sunak said, well, 15 to 18-year-old boys should do mandatory military service, even women. And the country said, hell no, and they voted in Labour. Now, the UK is calling on another general election because they don't like Sir Keir Starmer because he's saying the same thing. It's time they went to mandatory military service. Now, I I wasn't born when Bob Geldof was around or when what's his name? Gough Lemon and Bob Hawke were around. They used to be the Australian Labor Party of the people. This isn't their party no more. This is a mess. And I think, even though they're both unpopular, I think Peter Dutton may win.
You talk about a mess. What about the UK at the moment? I mean, you just mentioned Keir Starmer right now. People want another election right now because of the way that they've been handling things in the last 6 months. I've got news for you. You got to wait another 3 years. And by the way, the population of the UK, you voted for him. So you've got to deal with that. You've got to live with that for the next 3 years. You'll probably end up bringing back the Conservatives because the Conservatives at the last UK election lost a whole of 251 seats, which is a record loss, by the way. So good luck. You got to wait. You're going to probably have to wait another 2 terms or something like that before the Conservatives can get back into power.
Let's look at Anthony Albanese for a second. You both said he did the voice to Parliament and it was a landslide no. And then he tried to force it into councils. They said no. Then he took $450 million from our defense pocket to buy 2 jet modern planes, one for him and Jim Chalmers, and one for our Governor General before she got sworn in. And he's called it Toto 1. What does Toto 1 sound like? Air Force One.
Sounds like the Wizard of Oz to me.
But
I was going to say the exact same thing. It sounds like the Wizard of Oz to me when you talk about Toto.
the thing is, he's tried to do this and he's tried to sneak in the bill for, misinformation, disinformation. He tried to shut down free speech. That failed miserably. Because when he was, do you guys remember when he was asked as a joke, Mr. Prime Minister, if you could be dictator on day one, what would you do? And he laughed. He said, "Oh, I'd get rid of social media." And then, lo and behold, he's like, "Well, I'll chuck in a misinformation, disinformation bill, and I'll shut down everything that's being said about me."
He won't last. I don't see him lasting because he's okay. It's really weird, right? Because if we vote in Dutton, we're at risk of having a police state. If we continue to vote in Albanese, then our entire country will be going down the gurgler. So
Either way,
it's like, well, who's less shit? Basically, not who's better, who's less shit. Basically, that's what we're voting for. Who's less shit? Um. Anyway, next question.
next question. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Leon, what do both parties what do both parties need to do and over to win over the younger generation to vote for them?
To be honest, I don't know if there's really anything they can do at the moment. I think they're just looking, well, the younger generation of voters, I think, are either looking towards the Greens or they're looking towards the Teals because they have seen these younger generation, these younger kids who have grown up seeing their parents, be angry with the coalition or the ALP regarding the way that they've mishandled certain topics, certain things in their lives. And I think the younger generation, I think they're going to be leaning that way more. I believe these days they're going to be leaning more towards the Teals because the Greens have been around for a while now and they're doing some stupid stuff at the moment, which has costed them votes all across the country. But that one minor party that seems to be creeping up would either be the Teals or in some cases maybe One Nation.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think that one, especially with the Please Explain cartoons that Pauline Hanson keeps pumping out.
They're viral.
Yeah, they're
They're
viral.
funny. They're
and
funny.
and they're really funny. And even I like them, even though I don't support One Nation. I still think they're educational and funny. And I think if there's anything that's actually going to appeal to the younger generations, it's those cartoons.
It might be that. Yeah, right.
So I would not be surprised if One Nation actually does appeal to the younger generation purely due to those cartoons.
And then the younger generation that I'm talking about what I see on TikTok is, you know, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds. These kids are going on TikTok saying they don't speak for me. Why should I trust even though I can't vote, why should I trust when I get older to vote? You see, the difference between us and the state is, oh, we don't have to vote. It's not necessary to vote. It's not mandatory to vote. But here, it is mandatory to vote. It's your civic duty. But these kids who can't yet vote until they're 18 don't trust their their parties to help them out. And I was like that for years. I didn't trust any party because I felt these parties did not help me in the long run.
Represent you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I actually find very, very interesting about the last election? Well, a last prime ministership, I should basically say, is that almost all of us have had basically no promotion of the other ministers except for Jim Chalmers and Anthony Albanese. And Penny Wong is kind of found her way in the shadows, but not much is known about her. So I'm noticing that there's kind of a decrease of advertisement, if you will, or promotion of the other ministers than there were in previous elections.
Mhm.
I mean, I could literally list every single minister from the Liberal Party and every single minister from the Labor Party without fail. And now I bet you any money, most people can't even remember 4 ministers that are currently in government right now. And I think that's due to the fact that everyone's basically on their phones. Most people aren't even watching television anymore. And they only know about Albanese because he keeps fucking up the country.
Speaking of Miss Wong, she's apparently been picked by our Prime Minister directly to fly to America for Trump's inauguration to represent Australia. She's going to be at the inauguration in his replacement.
I heard about that, and also believe Kevin Rudd is going to be there as well, which I think, if I remember correctly, there was an interview that Donald Trump had. It might have been last year or sometimes like that, where he pretty much had given Kevin Rudd his marching orders. If he was the prime minister, he would be pretty much fired. And he said that he didn't believe that Kevin Rudd was doing a good job or something along those lines in an interview. So I find it rather strange that, Kevin Rudd has been invited to this thing, and also same as Penny Wong. So, but one thing I don't get, right? They're sending Penny Wong over to America for the inauguration. Why aren't they sending Anthony Albanese?
Yeah, I don't get that either.
He's
Yeah.
the pre- he's
the Prime
Australia's quote
Minister.
unquote president, so to speak, but he's our prime minister. But you get the picture.
Yeah.
I do understand that Penny Wong is like a foreign minister. I totally get that, but the prime minister should be at the president's inauguration.
Inauguration.
It should not be the foreign minister.
I think the reason why he's not attending is because this is a crucial time of year where he's now called for an early election.
He hasn't. He has not called for the election yet. He's doing a fake campaign trail. He's doing a fake campaign without having to call the election. So he hasn't called the election yet.
Didn't you say something around April or something?
No, 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 no. Well, there was potential dates in mind. Like a potential election date would be, it would either be May or April was being talked about lately. So there hasn't been an official election date announcement. So
he's already haven't have already started their campaign trail. So they're on the ground running.
Yeah, that's it. They have been starting their campaign trail. I will not be surprised if he decides to pull the trigger for an election on the same day that Donald Trump's being inaugurated. That would be a J-Bone move, and it would be like okay, look at that. You didn't see that coming, did you? Of course we didn't see that one coming, because Donald Trump's being inaugurated as the president of the United States. He tried to do this sneakily. That's not going to happen.
I kind of agree with that. I reckon all eyeballs are going to be on Donald J. Trump, because whether you like him or you hate him, you can't ignore him. And they're just going to go, oh, yeah. Let's just do it at a time where everyone's just focusing all their attention on America, and then talk about America and fascinate about America, and then just slip one in past the post, and then so most people basically don't even realize what's going on.
What I don't get is, with now the campaign trail's hot and steady, why send Miss Wong? I'm sorry, I don't agree with her going.
Well, I mean, she does represent Australia.
Yes, but we also have a deputy prime minister who does. I haven't seen him do anything in the last time that he's been deputy prime minister. If in fact, send your deputy prime minister to America as a representation of Australia,
or the shadow minister,
I mean,
like,
to represent us.
There are other ministers that, like the foreign minister. Okay, fine, I get it. She's a foreign minister. She basically does have a lot of connections with overseas. She does have phone calls with America all the time. It's part of her job. I get that. However, it would be like Anthony Albanese not showing up to Prince Charles's coronation. It would be a massive insult. So I really don't understand why. I mean, I get it. I mean, why he's doing it, and it's a snake move why he's doing it, but he really should basically show up. He really should.
Anyways, let's keep going. There's 2 more questions left. Here we go. Number 4. With Anthony Albanese's mess, can Peter Dutton rise to the occasion and clean up his mistakes?
Uh, um, Anybody can rise to the occasion, so to speak. As you put it. What would have to happen is Peter Dutton would have to, if he does become the prime minister, he would have to look at the books carefully to figure out what he can actually do. Because right now, the only persons that can look at the books right now is the government at the moment, and that's the ALP. So,
They still have to be transparent, though. Here's the thing.
oh, absolutely. You know,
So
transparency.
they have to tell everyone what they've been spending their money on, and it doesn't matter what side of politics you actually are. They can't just hide secrets like that.
Which means they will have to. Which means they will have to announce their MyEFO or their no, sorry, not the MyEFO. The MyEFO would have been late last year. They would have had to have brought. They would have had to have announced the budget, the actual budget. Um, when they could probably do it, probably in March. If I was Anthony Albanese, I would announce it. I would now announce the budget in March, and then the following Saturday morning, then I would go to the governor general and call the election for May or whatever, because that would seem to be the right way about it. Because either way, the ALP have to bring down a budget, and if they go in April, then that's would only be like a 3 to 4 week campaign.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Your thoughts on that
No, I actually kind of agree with Leon on that.
one? Me too.
Yeah, he's pretty much said it all.
Mm.
But yes, they will need to be transparent. But you know what? I think what Dutton would actually do is he'd probably stop foreign investment kind of thing on stupid things, and he'd have to concentrate on things that Australia actually need. So he might be putting money into more apprenticeships kind of things. He might put money into more hospitals. He might put money into tradie services, things that we can do in the country. I think a stupid mistake to be perfectly honest, like giving all this hundreds of millions of dollars plus equipment to Ukraine, okay, was a big mistake for Australia because like it's just one big cash cow that Ukraine has been getting. It would have been much easier to basically have a peace treaty and just settle it out between Russia and Ukraine, because it's not just costly for Ukraine and Russia, but it's also costly for everyone who's basically put money into it. Yeah, and these are things that need to stop.
Donald Trump did say, I believe, he was going to sort out this mess. If they wouldn't, he would. So let's see what Mr. Trump would be able to do.
Okay, boys, last question is a goodie. It's a real fun one. Leon and Buckets. Will this be a close call for an election, or are we looking at a complete sludge of a whitewash?
I think it's going to be a whitewash. I don't think it's going to be. Look, there will be people within the Labor Party that will keep their seats. I'm not doubting that, but Mr. Albanese has effectively lost his position because he's too unpopular. And to be honest, there are people like myself who voted the Labor Party in, where I have lost complete trust in the Labor Party. And I think there's a lot of people like that. So I don't see him actually winning this election, and I think he's lost a lot of his supporters.
I don't believe it's not going to be a whitewash. I doubt I doubt very much it would be a whitewash. I would be looking at the marginals. There's the marginal seats because they're the ones that could flip either way. Now, as far as I knew, I remember seeing an article, I can't remember which one it was, but the ALP at this point in time was set to lose at least 14 seats in New South Wales, which would be a big problem for the Labor Party straight off the bat. But the problem is, will those seats flip to the LNP? That's a question. That's an interesting question. I can see a bunch of them flipping to the LMP, but I can't see them all flipping. They would probably go to the they'd probably go, look, I don't want to vote for the ALP. People go, I don't want to vote for the ALP. I don't want the people to vote for the LNP either. I'd probably go for a minor party because that seems to be the trend in the last few elections, actually. It's been a trend towards the minor parties. And both Labor and the LNPs still haven't figured that part out yet. And as soon as, if they never figure that part out, they're the ones that are going to be the minor parties in the distant future. Obviously, not today, but looking further down the track, maybe. But I think a lot of those seats are going to end up going to minor parties, say, more than likely the Teals.
Can I say something? Right.
No
When
problem.
we had our last local election, okay, which was for my area anyway, which was the Cumberland area. Okay. I remember when there was Labor that was wanting support, and then there was the Greens that was wanting support, and then there was the Teals that were wanting support, and then there was, of course, the Liberal Party that was wanting support. And what ended up happening was that those Cumberland elections managed to get a representative of each party, some more than others, but each party. So it wasn't a matter of just Labor or Liberal, it was a mixture of each party. So that's why I'm saying, and I also agree with your point that, you know what, we might actually have a hung parliament, because all this power might end up with the end of independence. And they will basically just go, well, what are you going to do for us in order to give you the prime ministership?
I think what they call that is supply and demand. I believe that is the term.
That's a good question. I never thought of a hung parliament. They have been speaking about we could end up with a hung parliament, and that will take the time to find out the results. It could be a day, could be days, could be weeks, could be a month, could be even a year before we actually see a brand new prime minister if it's a hung parliament.
Please don't have a hung parliament. What happened the last time there was a hung parliament? The country went to S, and the opposition ended up taking power the following election. So you'll know what would happen. You'll know how it's going to go if it is a hung parliament. As it gets very, very close to that following election, you will see major, well-known party members all of a sudden pull the pin because they know they're going to go out, they're going to lose their seats. So that's what will happen if we have a hung parliament.
Can I say something about that? They've only got themselves to blame.
Absolutely.
All right, they've only got themselves to blame. Okay, so Labor held majority government, and they thought, woohoo, we've got majority government, we can do whatever we want now. And then because they had majority government, they just passed all these policies that didn't help anyone or didn't bother to pass anything at all, because they had majority government. And as a consequence, all these independents started creeping in and becoming more and more and more popular. And they just went, why are we supporting the Labor Party when my life is harder? So, like I said, they only have themselves to blame if we get a hung parliament.
Well, let's hope we don't. That was a fun podcast. Thank you, my boys. Thank you, Leon. Thank you, Buckets, for joining me this evening. Please don't hesitate to have your say, and subscribe to our channel. You know that bell? click on that. That helps us get a long way to make sure that we have a lot of fun. With a lot of podcasts. I'm looking forward to the next one. I think the next one should be a games night, I think.
Yes.
To do another games night. Thank you to Leon. Thank you to Buckets and our subscribers and viewers. Have you said, let us know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the bell. Invite your friends. We are also on Spotify for podcasters and Anchor.fm. We are there if you want to listen to the audio version of what we had to say. Thank you so much for joining us. Please stay warm. Our prayers and thoughts and love are with everyone in California as these wildfires are spinning out of control. Please evacuate and stay safe. Australia, stay cold. Have lots of cold showers and ice cream is stifling. God bless each and every one of you. And this was the very first in 2025. Happy New Year. Bye.
Bye.